He simply helped an elderly neighbor get to her door. But what his family said afterward turned his entire life upside down. You won't believe the words they used to destroy their own father. You know, I always thought growing old would bring peace. Slower mornings, less noise, more birdsong, and fewer idiots. Turns out, I was wrong. At 71, I woke up every day thinking I had nothing left to prove. I'd raised 2 boys, buried my wife, paid off a house, and still found the energy to mow my own damn lawn. If that doesn't count as a life well lived, I don't know what does. But all it took was one good deed to shatter the glass. It was a Tuesday. I remember because that's the day the neighborhood takes out trash and pretends to smile at each other. I was heading back from the grocery store with a bag of 2 ripe bananas when I saw Mrs. Portman, you know, the sweet old widow from 2 houses down, struggling with her front steps. Her walker caught on a raised brick, and she was teetering like a damn Jenga tower. So I dropped the bananas, lost 2 to the sidewalk, rest in peace, jogged over, and caught her before she fell. I helped her inside, gave her a glass of water, and stayed long enough to make sure she wasn't hiding a broken hip behind that stubborn smile of hers. I didn't think it was heroic. I just thought it was decent. But by the time I got back home, something had shifted. My daughter-in-law, Mandy, the queen of forced politeness and passive-aggressive parenting, was standing at the kitchen sink like she was waiting to pounce. "Out helping strangers again?" she said, not even looking up from whatever kale tragedy she was blending. "Mrs. Portman almost fell," I explained. "She's fine. I just helped her inside." Mandy scoffed like I'd handed the woman a briefcase full of drugs. "You really think that's appropriate? Running around doing favors for old women you barely know?" "I am an old man," I reminded her. "And she's lived on this street since you were in diapers." Wrong move. Her lips pressed into a line so tight you could have sliced cheese with it. "You're not her family, Dad. You live here with us now. Try acting like it." Ah, yes, that lovely little phrase, "You live here with us now." It sounds sweet, doesn't it? Like a warm invitation. Until you realize it means you've been downgraded to a guest in a house you paid for. That's right, my house. The one I built with my own hands in '84. The one I let them move into when things got complicated for them. And somehow, I became the complication. But I bit my tongue, smiled, and walked out back to breathe in peace. That's when I saw the real kicker. My grandson Dylan, 11 years old, smarter than he lets on, was sitting on the porch with his tablet, whispering to his little sister. I didn't think much of it until I heard what he said. "Mom says Grandpa's not really Grandpa anymore. Just some guy who sleeps in the guest room. Now, I've taken a lot of hits in life, literal ones, from work, from football, from being too stubborn to duck when I should have. But that hit somewhere deeper, somewhere I didn't even know still hurt. I wanted to believe it was a misunderstanding, that Mandy was just tired, that maybe I was overreacting. But the next day, things got even weirder. At the mailbox, the Thompsons, my neighbors for over 30 years, looked right through me, like I wasn't even there. No wave, no smile, not even a nod. Just cold eyes and a shut door. Then came the whispers, in the pharmacy, at the gas station, in the church parking lot. Quiet murmurs followed me like shadows, and I could feel it. The judgment, the suspicion, the silent distance. All over. "What?" I asked Mandy straight out at dinner. "Did something happen? Did someone say something about me?" She shrugged, never lifting her fork. "You'll have to ask your neighbors. Maybe they saw something." "Saw what?" She smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. It was the kind people wear when they're enjoying your confusion. I don't know. Maybe just something that made them uncomfortable. That night, I couldn't sleep. I searched my name online. Nothing. I checked the neighborhood Facebook group. That's when I found it. A post. No author, no evidence, just a grainy photo of me helping Mrs. Portman, taken from across the street. The caption? This man may seem helpful, but not everyone's intentions are pure. Be cautious, especially with kids nearby. No name, no direct accusation. Just poison, carefully worded, crafted to destroy without ever drawing blood. And the comments? Full of cowardly cowards. Always trust your gut. Something's off. I told my kids to keep their distance. Didn't he move in with his daughter recently? That says enough. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just gossip. This was a smear campaign. And worst of all, it worked. He simply helped an elderly neighbor get to her door. But what his family said afterward turned his entire life. 2 days later, Dylan wouldn't hug me goodnight. Said his mom told him some people aren't who they pretend to be. The same night, my other son, Blake, the good one, or so I thought, called and said, "Maybe it's time to let Mandy make the household rules." You've had your time, Dad. Had my time. Like I was a used paper plate at a picnic. At 71, I had become a ghost. A man erased not by death, but by suggestion. One picture, one whisper, one too many favors for someone else. And the worst part? I hadn't even heard the words yet. The ones that would change everything. But they were coming. I could feel them breathing down my back. What happened next changed everything. And not in the way I thought. You don't want to miss how this twisted deeper. Stay with me. It's only just begun. You ever feel like you're awake inside a bad dream? Not one where monsters chase you. No, that would be too simple. I'm talking about the kind of nightmare where everything seems normal until you start looking closer. Faces shift. People speak in riddles. You're there, but you don't belong. And worst of all, nobody tells you what you did wrong. That was my life, and it got worse. Fast. It started with my chair. Yes, my chair. The big leather recliner in the living room that had my butt's memory molded into it over 20 years. I came down one morning, hoping to catch a quiet hour of cable news and weak coffee before the house woke up. But the chair was gone. "Mandy," I said, calm as I could manage, "where's my recliner?" She didn't even glance up from her phone. "Oh, we donated it. It didn't match the new aesthetic." "The aesthetic?" I nearly choked. "That chair's been with me longer than your marriage." "Well," she said, rising from the couch with a smile so fake it should have come with a return policy, "maybe it's time you updated too." I felt my blood pressure tap dancing in my ears, but I didn't yell. Number I'd learned yelling only confirms their narrative, that you're unpredictable. So I swallowed it down, sat on the hard ottoman like a stranger, and watched my legacy get repainted in beige. Then came the phone call. "Hey, Dad," said my oldest, Tyler, the one I thought would never sell me out. "Listen, I've been hearing things, weird things, from people in the neighborhood, even some family. About you." "About me?" I asked. "What, that I'm old? Surprise. I read calendars. It's just, people are saying maybe you're not handling things well, that maybe it's not safe for you to be around the kids so much." I went quiet. Because what do you say to that? How do you defend yourself against a rumor that has no source, no proof, just fear by implication? "You think I'm dangerous now?" I asked finally, trying not to let the shake in my voice give me away. "I don't know what to think. he replied. But maybe it's time to step back. Let Mandy run the house. You can focus on yourself. Focus on myself, I repeated. Is that code for get out of the way? He didn't answer. That silence said more than he ever could. Later that day, Mandy asked me to pick up the kids from school. Are you sure? I asked. She blinked. Why wouldn't I be? I thought, well, considering the rumors. Oh, please, Dad, she laughed, brushing it off like lint. Don't flatter yourself. You're not that interesting. So I went. I sat in the pickup line for 45 minutes behind some mom in a pink SUV who kept checking her makeup in the rear view like the PTA was giving out medals. The kids came out. Dylan saw me and froze. I'll never forget the look on his face. Like I was the last person he wanted to see. Maya, bless her heart, still ran to the car. But when Dylan got in, he didn't speak. 10 minutes down the road, he said it. Mom told us, if we ever feel weird around you, we should tell someone. I almost ran the damn car off the road. Weird? I asked. What the hell does that mean, Dylan? He shrugged. Just that you're old. And sometimes old people forget things. And sometimes they lie about stuff. I parked, right there, on the side of the road. I turned and looked at him. This boy I'd held as a baby, taught to ride a bike, tucked in after nightmares. And now? Now he was looking at me like I was a problem to be solved. When we got home, I confronted Mandy. She didn't flinch. I said those things because they're true, she said. You do forget things. You're paranoid. You make people uncomfortable. I'm your husband's father, I said. This is my house. Was your house, she corrected, until we moved in and made it livable. I laughed. I had to. Not because it was funny, but because I was starting to crack. You moved in because your husband crashed your credit and your lease. I gave you shelter. And now you're turning my grandchildren against me? She stepped closer, her voice low and sharp. You did that. Every time you acted like this place still belonged to you, every time you tried to parent my kids, you're not their father. You're a man past his prime who doesn't know when to step aside. That's when I heard the words, the ones that split the ground open. You're a burden now, Dad. We just didn't have the heart to say it before. There it was, the phrase that flipped the switch. Not a slap, not a shout. Just a calm, calculated confession of what they'd all been thinking. I wasn't a person anymore. I was an inconvenience. I didn't speak. I didn't fight. I just turned, walked up the stairs, and shut the door. Because when someone tells you you're a burden, they don't want a response. They want you to disappear quietly. So I did. For now. But trust me, that silence, it wasn't surrender. It was preparation. This is the climax. Everything you've been waiting for, it's happening now. Don't leave. You need to see how I turned the tables and who crumbled first. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was sad. No. Sadness is for people who still care what others think. What I felt was sharper, meaner, more alive. Rage, maybe. Or clarity. There's a funny thing about being called a burden. At first, it breaks you. Then it rebuilds you. But different. Stronger. Smarter. Less polite. So I started watching. Listening. Paying attention to the quiet corners of my own damn house. Turns out, when people think you're old and soft, they don't bother hiding their dirt. They just assume you're too senile to notice. Mandy, for instance, had been helping herself to my Social Security deposits. Small amounts, slowly siphoned. I wouldn't have caught it if I didn't go through the bank statements one night while pretending to look for my blood pressure pills. And Tyler, my loyal son, He wasn't just backing Mandy, he was angling for something. I found an email. He left his account open on the family laptop like a true amateur. The subject line? Property transfer request. How soon can we process? So this wasn't just betrayal. It was a hostile takeover. And I had to decide, was I going to be the sweet old man in the rocking chair? Or was I going to burn the whole fantasy down? Guess which one I picked? First move? The will. You see, I'd never changed it. After my wife passed, everything was supposed to go equally to the boys. But now I wanted every single item, down to the damn toaster, going somewhere else. Anywhere else. I went to the lawyer's office the next morning, sat across from a kid who looked like he still had acne behind his ears and said, "I want to rewrite everything." He blinked. Everything? Everything, I repeated. Name a charity. Name a stranger. Hell, name your dog. Anyone but my family. He laughed, until he saw I wasn't joking. That was the beginning. Next came the camera. I bought a tiny one, the size of a quarter, and placed it inside the smoke detector in the hallway. Another in the kitchen clock. And one more in the living room lamp. Paranoid? Maybe. Effective? Absolutely. Over the next 2 weeks, I recorded everything. The passive-aggressive insults, the snide remarks, Mandy calling me a walking guilt trip, Tyler suggesting they encourage me to consider assisted living, even the kids, parroting lines like, "Grandpa forgets too much," and "Mom says he's embarrassing." But the final nail? The birthday video. It was Maya's birthday. I got her a handmade jewelry box, carved it myself. When I gave it to her, she smiled. Then I heard Mandy whisper behind my back, "Don't worry, we'll throw it out later." That night, I watched the footage on a loop. Not because I needed proof, I already had it, but because I wanted to burn the last ounce of guilt out of me. I was done, and it was time they knew it. I started small, subtle. One morning, I made everyone breakfast. Pancakes, eggs, bacon, the works. I even set the table. They all came down, surprised. "Wow," Mandy said, "you're in a good mood." I smiled. Just felt like doing something nice before I go. "Go where?" Tyler asked, raising an eyebrow. I shrugged. "Oh, you'll see." They didn't ask more. That was their first mistake. Next day, I sent out an email blast, not just to family, but to neighbors, the HOA board, even the local church group. Subject: The truth about my family, with receipts. Inside, video clips, bank evidence, audio recordings, everything. And the best part? I posted it all publicly, on a blog I titled, "The Burden Speaks." It spread like wildfire. The comments poured in. "How dare they treat you like that?" "Mandy should be ashamed." "I hope your grandkids grow up and learn the truth." Tyler called. I didn't pick up. Mandy screamed through the door. I didn't answer. I stayed upstairs, calm, until they banged on the door together. "We need to talk," Mandy yelled. I opened it slowly, looked her straight in the eyes. "No," I said. "You need to listen." And I told them. Every insult, every theft, every betrayal. Then I handed them the notice. I'd sold the house. Not to them, not to family, to a nonprofit for elderly veterans. And I was moving into one of their private cabins. Far away. Peaceful. Mine. "You can stay for 30 days, I said. "After that, find your own damn aesthetic." Mandy cried. Tyler shouted. The kids just stood there, silent. I looked at Dylan and Maya. "One day," I said, "you'll realize what happened here. And I hope it makes you braver than your parents." Then I turned around and closed the door. You thought that was the end? Not yet. There's one final moment. A reckoning. Stick around to see what happens when I face them one last time, and finally hear the words that started it all. I thought it would feel like victory. You know, taking back your power, exposing the truth, burning the bridges they built from your bones. But here's something no one tells you. Freedom and loneliness can look awfully similar in the rearview mirror. My cabin in the hills wasn't fancy, but it was mine. One bedroom, a creaky deck, no neighbors pretending to care. Just me, the wind through the trees, and the silence I used to beg for when the house was full of voices that didn't see me. I settled in, made coffee at 5 a.m., carved wood figures, wrote angry letters I never mailed, watched birds more carefully than people. I was free, and for a while, that was enough. But at night, when the wind shifted, I'd hear echoes, not voices, just memories. Dylan's little laugh before the fear was planted, Maya's hand in mine before she was taught to flinch, Tyler's teenage rebellion that used to end with apologies instead of power plays. And then, the words. Those words. "You're a burden now, Dad." They looped like a broken record, and not because they hurt, not anymore, but because I knew they were meant to be permanent. A sentence I refused to serve. So I did the unthinkable. I called them, not to apologize, not to reconnect, but to finish it. Tyler answered, nervous, his voice thinner than I remembered. "Dad?" "I'm coming to visit," I said. "Don't worry, I'm not staying, just dropping something off." Pause. Then, "Should we be concerned?" I chuckled. "You should always be concerned. But not today." When I pulled into the driveway of the house that used to be mine, it hit me. The landscaping had changed. The tree I planted with my wife was gone, replaced by a fountain shaped like an angel. How poetic. They buried memory under something hollow and decorative. Mandy opened the door. I almost didn't recognize her. Not because she looked different, but because I no longer saw her through fear. "Dad," she said, "this is a surprise." "No," I said, "this is closure." I stepped in. The air still smelled like vanilla candles and forced civility. Tyler stood by the staircase, arms crossed. "We saw the blogs taken down," he said. "I took it down," I said. "Not because I forgive you, but because I'm done educating people who should have known better." Maya peeked around the corner, Dylan behind her. They didn't run to hug me. That wasn't the plan. I sat down, pulled out a letter. "This," I said, "is a confession." Mandy rolled her eyes. Tyler shifted. But I went on. "I've been angry, deservedly. But I also played into your hands by letting you convince me I was useless, that I was some leftover. Well, I'm not. And neither are 1,000 other people you gossip about in church parking lots and whisper about on Facebook." I laid the letter on the table. "It's going to a paper. Regional, not national. I'm telling my story, not to shame you, but to give a voice to anyone else who's been silenced in their own damn living room." Silence. And then, it happened. Maya stepped forward. "Grandpa," she said softly, "are you mad at us?" I looked at her. She was too young to blame. And yet, even children carry the weight of adult cruelty. "No, sweetheart," I said. "I'm just disappointed you heard the wrong version of me for so long." Then Dylan spoke. "Mom said you made things hard, that you were always judging her." I laughed. Not bitter, just tired. I didn't judge her. I survived her. That's when Tyler stepped closer. And then, like a breath caught in the throat of time, he said it. "We were wrong, Dad." There it was. The words. Not flowery, not dramatic, just true. "We were wrong," he said again, "about you. About everything. Mandy stayed silent. That was fine. I didn't need her redemption. I didn't come for tears or reconciliations. I came for truth, and I got it. I stood up. You won't see me again, I said. And that's not a punishment. That's mercy. I nodded to the kids. One final look, not of goodbye, but of clarity. Then I walked out, down the porch, past the angel fountain, into my truck, and back toward the hills where silence wasn't cruel. It was honest. Epilogue. A month later, the article ran. The burden that wasn't. One man's story of family, silence, and survival. It made the rounds, got shared, quoted, sparked discussion. I got letters from strangers, widows, grandfathers, aunts, neighbors, all saying, "This happened to me too." I wasn't alone. I was just the first one to say it out loud. If you've ever been made to feel like a burden, read this twice. You are not. You never were. And the moment you stop asking for permission to exist, that's when everything changes.